Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Virtual World Cup. So happy to have you with us for this broadcast. We are coming at you with week two of the tournament. We are already three matches into our Saturday action here in week two. This will be the fourth. It is currently 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time on Saturday, July 18th. That is 8 p.m. in Nairobi, 1 p.m. in Toronto, 10 a.m. in Vancouver, and also 10 a.m. here in Seattle, Washington, United States, where I'm coming at you. I'm Evans Clinchy, and I'm happy to have you with us for this game. It's going to be fun. This is Canada versus Kenya, and definitely a pivotal matchup. Both teams undefeated in Group C, and whoever wins today is going to be 2-0, all alone in first place. Just a quick recap of the action so far. Saturday, we've had a couple of interesting games. Um, Pakistan with a 16-9 victory over Australia. Australia, the top seed in their group, and so Pakistan with an upset win. Impressive, 16-9. So then after that, we had Malaysia beating Thailand 14-11, a pivotal match in Group A there. And then after that, Singapore, absolutely the most dominant win of the entire tournament so far, 21-4, all over Ghana. And then, like I said, match number four will be Kenya versus Canada coming at you right now. So this is going to be interesting. We got a whole lot of oh, that's Allison's computer. That's why Will is called Big Fan of Will. That's very strange. Hi, Big Fan of Will. So I want to give you a quick recap of the pool play standings so far. With Malaysia beating Thailand earlier today, they are now both 1-1 and tied for second place in Group A. India plays the UK tomorrow, and it's possible that if India loses to the UK, then all four teams will be tied at 1-1. That'll be really interesting going into next week. In Group B, Pakistan, the first team to get to 2-0 in that group, beating Australia. And then Nigeria and South Africa play this weekend, and one of them will be 1-1 after that match. In Group C, you saw that Singapore beat Ghana already. That improves them to 1-1 and drops Ghana to 0-2. And then Canada and Kenya play today. So we're guaranteed to have standings in Group C of 2-0, 1-1, 1-1, 0-2. So one of these teams will be all alone in first place. And then in Group D, we've got the US and Ireland, both 1-0, and New Zealand and the Philippines, both 0-1. As we get to the action, we've got the five starters for Canada: Evan Borowski, Jeremy Hildebrand, Jesse Matthews, Dean Saldana, and Matthew Tunnicliffe. And for Kenya, we've got Patrick Latunia, Bernard Amuke, David Jenga, Chris Okiyama, and Josh Manyasa. So if you guys want to let me know in the chat if there's any one of those matches you want to watch, or any one of those players anyway, I can give you a quick rundown of the individual games. It'll be Evan against Josh and Jeremy Patrick, Jesse Bernard, Dean David, and Matthew Chris in round one. Yeah, I'm seeing in the chat that people are noting that Matthew Tunnicliffe is playing this week. That's because Tony Leah had to drop out for just this 1 week. He'll be back for week three. But Matthew, of course, a former national champion and a very formidable player. And so Canada's going to be very strong, even with one of the players missing in action. Maybe we should take a look at Matthew's action. In fact, it'd be fun to see him play one of his games. Yeah, let's take a look right now at Matthew in his first match. If we go to the ISC game screen, we've got on your left is the Lamb, that's Matthew Tunnicliffe, and then on the right is Criso, and that would be Chris Okiyama. So it looks like an interesting start here as Matthew has to fight through some vowels on his opening rack, and he plays a low-scoring play of Goonie for 18, and then Vent comes right back from Chris Okiyama for 12 points. So a little bit slow going as far as the point scoring here on the opening moves, but this might get interesting in a little bit. Matthew on turn here with CEFGIOU. He's got options like what? Fugio. He can play Fugio above Goonie for 25 points and a fairly defensive board early in the game, I'd say. If he wants to play more open, he could also do something like Fugio going down into the O. That's kind of worse equity-wise, lower score, and a little bit more awkward of a leave with ECO rather than EC. Anybody else sees any plays in the chat, just let me know what you're thinking about this turn. Seems like Fugio up top above Goonie is the best way to score pretty nicely and balance the rack pretty nicely. Keep CE and just move on to the next turn with a nice balance of consonant and vowel in your leave. But as I've already emphasized many times on these broadcasts, I am very rusty at the Scrabble and can always use some help in the chat just identifying candidate moves and kind of breaking down positions. Looks like a play does come down, and it is indeed Fugio from Matthew and Chris Okiyama. It's a difficult rack, HMRSTTY, all consonants, unless you count the Y as a vowel, which I suppose it sort of is in this situation. You can play something like, actually, I'm not sure what you can play. Almost rhythms, Jeremy points out in the chat. It is almost rhythms. Hard to get down rhythms with the two H's, though. Myths is nice. That's a nice way to score well and keep the board relatively closed early in this one. Very few opportunities to bingo here. And so for Matthew, with his still fairly balanced rack of CEEOSUY, he's just got to look for ways to score a nice medium-sized score here. Something like Yui underneath myths would be pretty reasonable. 19 points in a balanced leave. So we're going to hop around a little bit and just see what else is going on in the opening games. I'll probably come back to Matthew versus Chris at some point. Actually, let's take a look here. What's going on now? We got Housey for 36 from Matthew. Actually, not a word. Housey's only spelled Housey, but Matthew, I believe, gets away with a phony here. Chris letting the phony go and quickly playing Tori for 16, just dumping some extra vowels. So we've already seen one phony come down. Oh, Jeremy pointing out in the chat that Yui also would have played with events. Yeah, a nice hook there and opens up the board a little bit, which might be to your advantage if you're holding the S. Oh yeah, show you also an option. There you go. It's one of those tricky things word knowledge-wise to keep straight is those adjectives that end in E. You don't know whether it's E spelled with a Y or with an EY, because you study these things as bingos, like HOUSIER is house here, but you don't know whether it's housey with a Y or an EY unless you study those 5s and 6s pretty thoroughly. Oh yeah, Jeremy in the chat, please do turn on your bot. I would love to have lookup capabilities in the chat for whether words are valid or have anagrams or all that stuff. So absolutely, I'm for it. So Deb comes down from Chris, and now, oh, sorry, that's from Matthew. Yeah, Chris played Tori for 16, and now it's Matthew with a high-scoring play of Deb, and it's back to Chris, who's holding another fairly awkward rack. I think he's one tile off from Fioratura, right? Like if there was an O here, he could play Fioratura. That is neither here nor there. Tufa for 21, very reasonable play. Anyway, I will jump around a little bit, see what else is going on in the other games. Taking a look at Soccer Guy, that is Jesse Matthews for Canada on your left, and on your right is Bemix, that's Bernard Amuke, the number 2 seed for the Kenyan team. Looks like a close game midway through this one. 53 tiles still in the bag, almost exactly halfway through. And it's a small league for Soccer Guy, Jesse Matthews, 52 to 133. Kind of look at this position and see if there is anything interesting for Jesse to do. You know, there's Soiliest is the bingo with this rack through an I, and that just barely doesn't fit, unfortunately, for Jesse. So I don't believe he's going to be bingoing on this turn. Oh, wait, he can bingo. He has oil stones through the ON of Moo and Co-Driven. Look like that is the play. To keep watching this one for a little bit and see if Jesse can spot his 9-letter bingo. So just looking at the recap of the moves so far in this game. It was pretty slow going in the opening with Yoni for 14 to open from Jesse, opening vertically. Interesting. I didn't recall that he did that. And then Bernard with crib for 26, and on his second turn, Bernard got the first bingo with code driven. Unwares put Jesse back ahead. Currently a 19-point lead for Jesse, and it would be much bigger lead if you were able to find oil stones for 76. Unless I'm missing something, that is the only bingo. I don't believe that he's got anything into the R that fits. Yeah, estrioles is the only bingo through an R with these 7 letters. Yeah, I see Paul saying in the chat that he thought I was rusty. No, believe me, I am rusty. I'm going to find things like oil stones and then, start calling out phony 3-letter words for people to play. So you'll find out soon enough if you keep watching. Yes, I'd like to point out also that the official Coco Scrabble stance on vertical openings is currently undecided because half of our organization's co-founders are very much in favor and the other half are very much not. So just to clarify that for everybody, there is no defined official stance from the organization on that. Anyway, Jesse burning a lot of time here, so I'm guessing he hasn't looked for the 9s through O-N. Yeah, Mesolites doesn't fit, as Chris points out in the chat. Yeah, Mesolites and also I think Mistletoes is good with the ME. This is the kind of rack where if you don't see the 9-letter bingo, you got to spend a long time looking for the best non-bingo play. Yeah, Jesse does play Loci for 17 points, just trying to score and balance a little bit. Let's jump around a little bit more. Let's see what Tuni is up to. It's confusing for me having multiple players whose last names are very similar to Tunney. There's Matthew Tunnicliffe for Canada and Patrick Latunia for the Kenyan team. But yeah, Tuni is Patrick Latunia, the number 1 seed for the Kenyans, and Jomi Jomi on your right is Jeremy Hildebrand for Canada. A close game in this one as well, with Jomi scoring 19 points for Wood here and pulling slightly ahead, 192 to 171. It's like both players open with bingos on their opening racks in this one. Patrick had Dwalter for 70, and then Dragonette came down for 83 from Jeremy immediately after that. EEIORTW, the rack for Patrick Latunia. Not sure what to do with that. There's a way to just play something like WOE, W-O-E, and keep the rack balanced. That would be great, but that is not looking super easy to do. Could possibly play Wooer, keeping EIT. 21's a pretty decent score for this situation. Not a lot of great scoring hotspots available on the board, so you can kind of take what you get scoring-wise. Wordy is a lover of words. Oh, that's a good play. Wordy. That's a new word, isn't it? I'm especially rusty on the new words. I mean, rusty, I just mean I never learned them at all. Yeah, so wordy would be a pretty strong play here. It would score 28. Instead, Patrick opts for Wiro, which is a pretty strong play defensively, unless your opponent has the bingo at 13C, which we, of course, know that Jeremy does not. He's picked up the J, and he's going to be looking more for point scoring than bingoing in his next couple of turns, at least in this one turn anyway. Not seeing a lot of great opportunities for Jeremy to use his J for a big score. Yeah, really not much at all in that regard. I see that Keg takes a front S, so he could do Jedis for 22, but that keeps CGR. No, that's gross. No way that's the right play. Yeah, this is a tough one. I don't think there's any kind of short fishing type play. Rejig and row, that's pretty reasonable. It's going to score nicely. 35 points. It does open up the triple, but if you're going to score 35, I think you kind of have to do that. That's much stronger than anything else equity-wise, just the points and the leave. Looks like Rejig is a lot stronger than anything else available to him here. You guys can feel free to let me know in the chat if you'd like to stick with this game between Patrick and Jeremy, or skip along. We can check on Dean Saldana if you want. We can check on Evan Borowski if you want. We can go back to one of the previous games. It is your stream, and you guys can all the shots you like. But as for this game, it's a close one, and for Jeremy, the objective here is to find a way to score with the J and put himself in position to bingo in one of the next couple of turns. He goes for Gin for 26, keeping the board a little bit closed. But for Patrick, he's now got the Z on his rack. I don't think he's going to want to just dump it for 21 points with Z here. There's probably a better option than that. You can play Fizzes for 37, but that gives back a big giant spot with this double letter score here. That's kind of scary. There's probably a way to keep the board a little safer and not give back any obvious big plays for your opponent here. No biz jet. Yeah, that would be pretty sweet if you could get that down. I see Jeremy Koo in the chat rooting for his fellow Jeremy Hildebrand. Yeah, Jeremy, we actually have 2 Jeremys and 2 Koos in this tournament, so you don't have any unique names. We were just looking at the result slips from this morning and looking at the 2 different Koos on our spreadsheet and getting very confused, so we just thought we would note that on the stream. So 218 to 199, a small lead for the Jeremy who is currently playing, Jeremy Hildebrand. And now the Q on Patrick Latunia's rack. Or sorry, on Jeremy's rack. Patrick plays Bez, Jeremy exchanges the Q, and now it's back to Patrick, who has drawn a bingo of putties, and I imagine we'll see putties come down pretty quickly. Jeremy, I didn't say you were faceless. I'm just saying you don't have any unique names. Let's not get carried away here. So for Patrick here, there's the option to play putties here for 69 points underneath Wud. That doesn't give back any hotspots that are too terrible. And then instead of scoring 69, you could play putties over here and score 74. It looks like this one's going to be the better option. 5 extra points, and it's not too scary in terms of defense. And it turns out that right after Patrick plays putties there, it looks like Jeremy's going to bingo in the other spot. He's got nectars, trances, etc., lots of bingos, lots of 7-letter words. I don't believe he has any 8-letter words. I mean, he can play can't reds here, but it's not a good play. It's only 62 points. You can do better than that. But as far as this spot, you can play nectars, doubling the C, you'll see that. So that's probably the maximum score you can get, 71, unless I'm missing another way to bingo on this board. That's probably going to be the best option. You're creating a hotspot underneath nectars here, but the X is already gone, so that's the worst of it. Get hit with something like an F or an H in that spot, it's usually not the end of the world. You can play something like Carnets. That's going to score fewer because you're not doubling the C anymore, but it also cuts off plays overlapping the C because it's only an H hooks onto the C there. So definitely an interesting offense versus defense decision to make here for Jeremy. He's down by quite a bit. It's 301 to 218. He's down by 83 points. He does play nectars, which I think is the more offensive of the 2 options, and I think that makes sense when you're still losing. You want to keep the board volatile so you can make your comeback. So after nectars, a fairly average rack for Patrick, BCEIMRT. Not fantastic for bingoing, but certainly decent for getting an okay score on this turn. Can't complain too much. Prim is a word, I think, but again, like I said, I'm rusty. Let's just type in check prim. It's good, so that's an option. 24. I don't think I see like a 5-letter word here that would get a big tile underneath the E. That would be the way to really maximize your score, I'm guessing. Oh, be trim doesn't work because NI is no good. You can play timber. That's not going to score that well, and it's going to open up a whole bunch of stuff. You probably don't want to make that kind of a play here, especially with your opponent down by a small amount, looking for an opening. And I guess Krim is questionable because of the Ume hook. You know, some new words. Zombie for 36. Very nice play from Patrick. Doesn't open the board up at all, really, unless your opponent's going to bingo through that eye, which is, not terribly scary. So, nice score, nice defense, and Patrick is now ahead 337 to 289 with an awkward 7 tile sitting on Jeremy's rack. How do you play through this mess if you're Jeremy? Iritis is a word? Yeah, you could do that. The nice thing about Iritis is you're opening up bingos into this S now. And if you're Patrick after Iritis, you're looking at a wide open line O and a wide open, not wide open, but definitely an open line A here for a bingo ending in D, which of course lots of 8-letter words do. And you're in a situation where you can't block both of the possible spots to bingo, and so defending becomes very difficult for Patrick at that point. So as soon as, or provided that Jeremy finds Iritis, which is not guaranteed, he's still in decent shape in this game. He's going to have a shot to come back and win this thing. A good point by Jeremy in the chat, though, that with only one E left in the tile pool of 22 unseen tiles, the D is not as good as it would be otherwise. And no doubt, Patrick is a strong player. He will notice that, and so he's probably going to emphasize blocking the S, which is a much better spot to block. So Jeremy's still got a chance to win this game, but it's going to be tricky. He goes for Rotis instead of Iritis, not as strong, but still kind of the same idea. And unfortunately for Jeremy, Patrick is going to slam him immediately with a bingo. The only question is whether he wants to play Enactors at the bottom or Note Card at the top. They're very similar. I think Enactors is a few more points. Yeah, Note Card is going to be 86 in line A, and Enactors is going to be 89, 3 points more, and also blocks the more important spot. On the other hand, you're opening a new spot for Jeremy to bingo into the E in line 1. So nothing is guaranteed to block everything, but you are guaranteed to go ahead by over 100 points as long as you find one of these bingos. So pretty good situation for Patrick Latunia to be in at this point. And he does indeed choose the 89-point bingo of Enactors, and he's in pretty good shape now. Let's keep on moving along. Let's take a look at Gretz. That would be Dean Saldana of Canada on your left, and on your right is David O. That would be David Njenga, the third seed for Kenya. So it looks like a small lead right now for Dean over David, 301 to 288. And Dean is on turn. He's got Eosigns and Onesies are the 7-letter bingos in that rack, but it doesn't look like those play. Genoizes is the 8-letter bingo that does play, and Dean finds it. So a nice situation for Dean here, ahead by, let's do some math, 74 points. And it looks like David's going to have to burn a turn playing off the Q, but he does have a high scoring way to do it. You can play cheese for 36 into this S. The bad thing about playing QIS in this spot, though, is you kind of would like to bingo above this ES here in Genoizes, and you're killing the spot. Not killing the spot, but making it a much harder spot to hit anyway by putting the eye there. So not a great situation for David if he's trying to keep his options open as far as bingoing to come back in this game. But it seems to me like QIS is pretty much forced. I'm not seeing a better way to use the Q. You do have to keep scoring to stay even within striking distance to win this game. And 36 is a very good score for the Q at this juncture. So he does play QIS, and after his bingo, Dean has drawn a weird rack, but definitely one that he can keep scoring points with. Yeah, let's see here. EEHIJUW. What is there to do? Not a great rack at all for Dean, but if you can just keep scoring. If you're Dean at this point, you got to think, is there any place you can get hit hard here? I mean, with the unseen tile pool, it doesn't look like there's going to be a bingo. Is there any kind of big scoring spot you need to block for like a surprise comeback win for David, but I don't think there's going to be too much he's got to worry about. Yeah, Sidewinder pointing out in the chat that Dewey will probably win this one, and I think he's right. You just play Dewey here for 50 points. That puts you well ahead. And so it does look like Dean is going to be just fine. Even if he plays something a little bit weaker than Dewey, he's probably still in pretty good shape. You take another look at another game. You can take a look at, on your left, Ev Zone. The number one seed for Canada is Evan Borowski. And on your right is Kenya Hawk. The bottom seed for Kenya is Josh Manyasa. So Evan with a decent lead here, 334 to 275, but it is Josh on turn with a 7-letter bingo rack of Regalia, but it doesn't play. Plays Twiggier for 26 points instead. And AEFR STT looks tantalizing for Evan. I'm not seeing a bingo right away. He's probably got something pretty strong if we look here. If he wants to go the fishier route, he could just play Fit for 12 and try to make something happen with AERST, but I don't think he has the right board for that. He's also ahead. He can just keep scoring and not have to worry about fishing for a bingo. Fret is a nice play. It blocks 8-letter bingos through those letters IER. Makes it a lot harder for Josh to come back here. He's now behind by 63. He's going to have a hard time getting a bingo or a high-scoring play here. So it does look like Evan is going to hold on and win this one. I'm going to take a quick look at the results that we have so far. It looks like we have one game in the books already, as the Lamb, Matthew Tunnicliffe, has notched a victory over Chris Okiyama. So that is the first recorded win of the match, and I will go ahead and head to the scoreboard and update that one. If I could just find the score on my screening software. While I'm finding that, you can keep watching this game. A close one here between Evan and Josh, with Josh trying to find a way to pull this one out, and it's going to be tough for him. So 1-0. Canada on top so far, with Matthew Tunnicliffe notching the first win of the match for the Canadians. Definitely have some more results trickling in soon, including this one, as Evan does have the lead, does have the second blank, just needs to avoid some kind of crazy disaster scenario. This might be one of those positions where any valid word is going to win you this game. So we can briefly hop over to our matchup coverage screen, where we're going to be updating on a game-by-game basis who wins what matchup. And if we go to game number 5 in round 1, that'll be a win for the Canadians, so they're up 1-0. Back over to the game as we look at Evan trying to figure out this endgame against Josh, and it looks like pretty much any valid word is fine, but he's probably looking for a way to bingo here, which I'm not sure if one exists. There's probably some crazy 9s like Esotropia or something that don't quite work. Yeah, Esotropia, Oratories, none of these are quite working. And then through the V, the only valid 8-letter word is ovations, and that does not fit. So I don't think there's going to be a bingo here. But yeah, really any valid play is looking decent here. Wow, it's pointed out in the chat that Ons and Weezers scores a lot of points. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a 2-tile play for 45 quite like that. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, it would have been 45. That's correct. But Stoa is just fine for Evan, assuming he didn't need to block any bingos. I don't think that there's anything we had to worry about. But anyway, for Josh here, it's AELPSVY, and he's just got to kind of play out the string and find the best possible way to score some points. He knows that Evan is going to go out on his turn, so he's just got to maximize score and not keep any 20 tiles on his rack. Types is pretty reasonable, I'd say, 42. But yeah, pi for 33. Similar play. Get rid of the P and the Y and score nicely. So it looks like Evan is going to wrap this one up. If we hop over to Patrick Latunia and Jeremy Hildebrand again, it looks like Patrick is wrapping up a victory in that game. And looks like we're going to have all the results from round one in just a moment. Looks like Dean Saldana did indeed finish off his win over David Njenga, so I will go ahead and update that. We go to our matchup coverage and take a look at the individual games. Got a win for Canada in game number 4 as Dean beats David. We are about to have a win for Patrick Latunia over Jeremy Hildebrand. Just bear with me while I update these. So a win for Kenya in that matchup. And we unfortunately missed out on the action in the game between Jesse Matthews and Bernardo Mupe. It looks like Jesse got the win in that one, so another win for Canada. And then to update Evan versus Josh, looks like that one has gone final, and Evan has gotten the victory in that one. So we'll just update those and let you know that after one round of play, the score is going to be Canada 4, Kenya 1. Definitely a very strong start for the Canadians, but as we well know, these things can change at any moment. I mean, we had a match last week involving Canada where I believe they started out 2-7 in their first 9 games. They rallied and rallied and rallied, and they won 13-12. So absolutely, anything can swing very quickly in these matches. You can think you've got the momentum, and that can change in a heartbeat. So props to Canada on a strong start. They lead 4-1, but anything can happen in round 2 and moving forward for sure. I am going to jump on to game 2 and see who's playing. It looks like we've already got one getting started between David Njenga and Matthew Tunnicliffe. David with the opening play of XI for 18 points. I unfortunately missed that turn, so I didn't see what his lead was, but generally when you open the play like XI, you are fishing for some sort of bingo. I mean, I don't think he would have made a short play like that unless he had a strong lead to go with it. But speaking of strong racks, Matthew's going to bingo on his opening turn. He can play something like Nitrate. That one's a little bit dangerous because of the vowel next to the double letter score here. Tartine. No, not there. That would be illegal. Iterant. That is pretty strong. 72 points and doesn't put a vowel next to this double letter score here. So I was speculating David might have a strong rack, and good lord, was I correct? He has both blanks. He's got blank blank AGLRS. He is absolutely going to bingo. The only question is which one. I'm guessing that the best way to bingo is to double double through line 11. Something like Garland's is totally fine. Although you might want to avoid putting the vowel next to the double letter here in case your opponent has the Z or something like that. But yeah, I mean, no matter what comes down here from David, it is going to be a bingo, and it's going to be a score of 78, I would assume. So we're going to have a close game here with both players bingoing in the early game, and that'll be interesting. Jumping around, let's take a look at Jesse Matthews. He's playing against Patrick Latunia. And speaking of strong opening racks, Jesse has AERRSY blank. You can probably find a bingo here. I see Jeremy in the chat speculating about Intertaxi. Unfortunately not found. What are we seeing here for Jesse? Something like worries, that's a word? I feel like that might be a thing. Yeah, worries with a blank W is an option. Looks like there are 9 possible 7-letter words in all. Yarders is indeed one of them. Thanks, Benji. You guys can feel free to keep calling out what you see. If you can guess all 9, I'll be impressed. So far, we found yarders, and I called out worries. A couple of them are common words. A couple of them are not so much. Yep, yarners and yarders are both good. Yep. Thoughts and prayers, says Benji. Thoughts and prayers are with the Ghana team after getting crushed by the Singaporeans today. Wanderer 15 is all over it. Prayers, 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 sprayer, respray. Killing it. I see Jeremy in the chat gloating a little bit that he had a pretty fantastic day for the Singaporean team against the Ghanaians. I believe he won all 5 of his games and played a 10-letter bingo in one of his wins. Respray is the choice from Jesse, which is kind of fun because if you draw ing, you can play respraying. So I would definitely call that the most entertaining of the 9 possible options. And for Patrick, not as interesting of a rack. He's got a lot of 1-pointers he's got to play through. Maybe it's warranted here to, just play something long like Iodate or Toady and just bust up this rack. I'm not so sure. Actually, I'm not seeing a fantastic way to overlap respray with Iodate or Toady. A lot of things to iterate through, though. Like, I keep trying to play phony 2s like IP. Oh yeah, overlapping it would be wrong anyway. When you're down by a bingo early, you want to open the board, not close it. That's a good point. So what does one do in this situation then? He could do... Oh, geez, this is tough. There's a way to kind of fork the board open and open things above respray and below it. That would be great, but how do you do that and score any points at all? Oh, Oye, that's very interesting. That's exactly the kind of play I was talking about, although it doesn't score much. It's probably still worth doing. It's a volatile play. Sometimes you bingo for a lot, and sometimes you draw more 1-pointers that don't bingo. But, down by 76 points early, you got to take some chances. Yeah, I think I like Oye a lot. That might be the kind of play you need in this situation. So he goes with OE, which is similar in points, 8 instead of 6, and doesn't open the board in quite the same way. The good news for Patrick is that Jesse's rack is not great here on turn 2. FIINOTV. You could play something like Notify, just, score decently and get rid of some of these tiles. Vinify is a word that... Oh, or notifies into the ES. That's very cool. So very nice play from Jesse. He's now ahead 112-8. So pretty strong start for Jesse Matthews in this one. Let's take another look at Evan Borowski. He's playing Chris Okiyama. And it looks like a close game early with Chris getting down robe for 28. I just had to check Joanna. It is indeed good. For 26 points and keeping ES, setting up your S hook, that might be a good aggressive option. What do we think of Joanna? Is that too aggressive or just aggressive enough? Yeah, Jeremy, that's an excellent question in the chat. I actually don't know if people prefer the jumping around style or the staying on one game for a prolonged period of time style. I think I'm just kind of satisfying my own attention deficit disorder by jumping around, but I am happy to change my ways if the audience requests it. I, at least to me, yeah, a little bit of a jump around at the start. That might be one way to go. Latched onto a banger. I would like to be latched onto a banger. Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to be like sticking with a game that's a blowout for too long. And I just kind of have this like fear of missing out, right? Where like, what if there's a really awesome game that I should be watching and I'm not? So yeah, one game in depth, but jumping if it's a blowout. Okay, that sounds like a fine way to go. I will stick with this game for now between Chris and Evan. Evan is, of course, the top seed for the Canadians. A very strong player. Definitely will be entertaining to watch him. So Pixie from Chris is a nice way to unload a couple of L's and create a new opening. So the rack now for Evan is Manoaus, which is, of course, famous for being an opening rack that was missed in the finals of World 6 years ago. Yeah, Will, I definitely think there's something you said for if there's a really cool matchup between two top players, you should zoom in on that one. Yeah, I agree that as far as the Kenyans go, I will confess to not having that much knowledge of these players. I think I've seen Patrick play a little bit, but the other guys not as much. Um, and I'll also be honest with the Canadians, like all five of these guys are my personal friends, and so there's all sorts of biases going on here. But I think I'll just kind of try to give each player equal billing. Try to let everybody get their day in the sun, and definitely try to, in your words, Will, latch onto a banger. A chill, nice dude. Good to know. And definitely let me know if I'm pronouncing any names incorrectly. I've kind of been hedging my bets on whether it's Josh or Joash. I'm not sure. I apologize for that. I'm kind of saying something that's halfway between the two. Anyway, we're playing Scrabble, aren't we? Nailery comes down for Chris. That's a 68-point bingo, making open. And now a pretty strong point scoring type of rack for Evan with the H and the K and the M. Plenty to work with. I feel like I've attempted to phony before with linearity. That sounds familiar to me. So there's nothing with pattern and linear blank Y? Huh. Oh no, yeah, linearity is a word and the bot is broken. I got you. HKMNOOS. Honk, that's the kind of play I was looking for. A nice overlap that scores very well. MOS is a strong lead as well. So Evan takes the lead, but now Chris has a very strong rack, and he will certainly bingo. He plays dosages for 80. And there's the other blank immediately showing up on Evan's rack, so he might bingo right back. I'm not seeing right away how that's possible, but it's. Let's keep looking. There's no way to play compiles or polemics or. Yeah. Nothing is jumping out as a bingo possibility here. Pardon the noise. I was just trying to find a laptop charger so I don't die on you guys here. I'm a little bit worried about the laptop charger leading to some fan noise, and I apologize if there's any fuzziness in my sound quality. I've been working all week on making that a little better. I know it's not 100% perfect, but I'm trying to make it as passable as can be. CLMOPS blank. Clumps with a blank. What does one do? There are no sevens. Wait, I lied. There are two sevens. Compels and copalms. Nothing through a D. No nines through ON. So yeah, this is tough. Palm is a nice way to score a little bit. Yeah, Stefan, I've been doing everything I can to deal with the fan buzzing. Um, it's a double-edged sword because if I plug the laptop into the charger, then it starts buzzing. But if I don't, then my computer dies and I can't stream anything at all. So, I'm trying to hedge my bets there. Have it plugged in the minimum amount. Glad that there is at least occasionally an absence of fan buzzing. I discovered this awesome thing called noise gate, which basically makes it so that your sound level has to at least pass a threshold level of decibels, and if you're not making any sound at all, like if I'm not talking, then it'll just not play any sound, and that way you don't get any background noise while I'm quiet. And then when I do talk, I'm like, slightly like Darth Vader, but that's okay, right? Anyway, I'm seeing Incisal and Salison and all sorts of bingos here for Mr. Borowski. And Inclips, that's another nice one. So Inclips comes down and gets the 5 points for the challenge. And now Evan is back in the lead up by 44 points with Chris on turn. No spot for Dedicant. Not the kind of board for a crazy line like Candidate or Addiction. So what do you do here to keep the board open? Candid, okay. So Candid scores 32, a strong score, and now if you're Evan, you got to worry about that D at the bottom. D is not the best letter ever for having a 8-letter word with the letter first or second, but it's something. So for Evan, it's only a 12-point lead, not 14. 12-point lead. Got to keep scoring well. Not the easiest board to do that. Yeah, I see Jeremy in the chat asking whether he could have played Incisal in the more aggressive position. I'm guessing he means underneath the S in dosages because it triples the C and really maximizes your points. But I don't think you can just open up that triple. And yeah, that's a little bit too open. Inclips is a nice play, and Candid puts the onus right back on Evan to keep scoring and not let Chris come back with just strong point scoring plays. AEGHRTT. What have we here? Just Ha is fine. I mean, right? You get 29 points. You block the new spot that's been created. Or He. There's a lot more E's to be drawn in the bag than A's, so maybe He is better. Interesting point. ADL RTTW for Chris, who's down by 41. You could do something like Waldo, just kind of swing the board open up in that top left corner. I don't mind that kind of a play. It might be something better than Waldo, but a similar idea. That was just kind of the first thing that jumped out at me. 19 words start with incis. Incisiform, incision. Okay, this is fun stuff. Yeah, so Waldo does indeed come down for Chris. He's trying to open the board. It's going to be hard to keep it open here. Evan is probably going to look for a play that blocks the spot and scores. Yoga is 36. I would expect Yoga to come down. Is there anything else besides Yoga that you should even consider? Yeah, Veggie, there's been a whole lot of buzz around my laptop. You don't even know. Yeah, seems like Yoga is going to put Evan in a very strong position. Or I guess it's called a pose, not a position in yoga, right? That one's for you, Veggie. Oh, you love the puns. So if he does play something like yoga, you're going to have 15 tiles left in the bag. Pretty difficult closed position. Yeah, yoga does come down. I see that Chris has Gretz, which is Dean Saldana's ISC name. Maybe that's a sign that we should leave this game and mosey over to Gretz's game. Benji, I think if you're trying to insult a Canadian, you're supposed to say "what a hoser," not "what a poser." Got to learn your Canada slang. You like that? I just repunned your pun. So now it is Chris on turn, down by 59. Not a lot of places to bingo on this board. Um, you'll note that the word is takes hooks of H, M, and O, and all the H's, M's, and O's in the game are gone already. So that is a dead bingo lane. No chance of anything there. Um, yeah, this is going to be brutal. I don't really see what Chris can do to make this game winnable. You guys can feel free to let me know in the chat if you'd like to mosey along to another game or stick with this one. According to our rules, this is, not a blowout, but also not one that Chris could easily win. Tour is interesting. Scores 20, but bingos don't fit here. That's only 6 squares. Oh, and Evan quickly plays the cue for 35. He's now ahead by a full bingo. I mean, 74. 10 tiles left. Edward in the chat saying he needs to pick the last S and set something up. Frag at J2. So Crag would just kind of. Oh, you're saying Crag. Sorry, Crag up here. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be hard to set something up in a way that continues to score points. I mean, you're down by a full bingo, and if you score 8 on a turn, for example, you're going to be in trouble after your opponent keeps scoring. Play at 5L next turn with a word taking an S. Yeah, I was looking at 5L and just thinking that, yeah, you're just not going to score enough there. Chris does score well with Seds for 42. But yeah, again, where are you, bingo? Difficult position for sure. I think I'm going to make an executive call here and mosey along. Let's take another look at Matthew Tunnicliffe in his game against David Njenga. It looks like a close one. David is down by 22 points, but it's also David on turn. Looks like Matthew tripled with Sorrow Rate. And also Bingo 2 other times, but it's still a close game. Interesting. Oh, Unweldy was 113 because it hooked the Y onto Womb to make Woomby. Whew, a lot of points. All right, so we got a very close one. I'm going to definitely stick with this one. And of course, Unweldy's from Spencer. All the weird misspelled words are the Spencerian ones. Not all, but a lot of them. Zeta's for 48, a nice score. And now Matthew is pretty solidly ahead, but what can David do, keeping in mind that he's got 2 minutes and 20 seconds on his clock? Let's see here. Does he have a word that extends all the way? Like, Jarbs isn't a word. I don't think he has anything that gets to the double word score there. Yeah, the only 5-letter J words are Jubas and Judas, nothing with the A second. Wow, Young John Rong in the chat suggesting crib. I suppose you mean this crib setting up Judd's with the other 4 tiles on your rack. That is super interesting. If you look at the unseen tile pool, it's EHIIINOPQ. Matthew's rack is going to be ugly, and he's not going to have the right stuff to block with. So that would have been fascinating, but David goes for a more conventional play of just Jerd for 24, scoring points, balancing the rack a little bit. And Matthew has QI on his rack, but it is super awkward. He does actually have 2 words on his rack. It's QIN and Hioe, but I don't think there's going to be a way to play those 2 words in a 2-play sequence that works for him. Yeah, QIN above nitrogen. Definitely an option. Matthew's almost 4 minutes, so he can take his time and figure this thing out. Maybe there is a way to do QIN followed by Hioe. If you play QIN here, yeah, you got Hioe in 2 spots. Because you've set up a spot for yourself underneath the Q, and then you've got above nitrogen as well. So that's a way to guarantee yourself an out in 2. You score a ton up high. So if you play QIN here, and then you just do like anything here, like HIN, yeah, I mean that's a lot of points. You're definitely right about that. Looks like either one of those options is winning. This is one of the situations where, valid words are much better than invalid ones. Hioe first at C12. God, I gotta learn my board positions. Okay, Hioe there. Not high on. Let's do that again. Let's put the I there. Hioe. Oh, wait, no. You got Hioe followed by QIN here. Is there a second QIN? I almost thought this one was, but NI is no good. See Jeremy in the chat being a troll, saying that David can play bed cups. Okay, so Matthew does go for the out in 2 idea that I suggested, of just playing QIN followed by Hioe. And it looks like Matthew is going to hold on and win this game. I believe that all 5 games are still in progress. I'm looking at my buddy list right now, and everyone is still playing. Oh, with the exception of Chris? I'll figure it out later. So pub comes down from David. And highway is going to end this one. So Matthew gets the win. We will hop back over to our matchup coverage screen and update this to reflect that Matthew has gotten the win in round 2, game 5. Just find that on my screen. Mark, Canada. That means they're going to be 5-1 Canadians. I will do what I can in just a moment to find some more scores and update those. Looks like Chris Okiyama did indeed lose to Evan Borowski, so that's another win for Canada. So that'll make it a 6-1 lead now for Canada in the match. I'll just jump back into a game here. We can take a quick look at Jesse Matthews and Patrick Latunia. And this one looks like an interesting one. 2 tiles in the bag, awkward rack, and very little time. Both players, especially for Jesse, 10 seconds, or 12 or so. Gotta play something quickly. He's down ahead by 6 points. Plays bid, keeping CELT. 4 seconds on his clock. Patrick with 2.5 minutes. I see Weibin in the chat talking about lots of statistics. Weibin, if you want to drop the link to your tournament statistics kit in the chat, that would be great. I'm sure people would love to geek out over some statistics. But as for this game, Patrick down by 25. Does not have a single vowel. He's got to score as well as he can with PRRXY. Poxy seems pretty strong. 28, keeping RR though. I'm not sure if you can go out with RR. So an awkward situation to be sure. Then again, I don't think Jesse can go out either, and Jesse's got very serious time trouble to worry about. I do know Jesse personally, and I know that he's played about a gazillion speed games on the internet before in the last 20 years of his life, so he knows how to play these positions. Oh yeah, Benji points out that Celts, excuse me, is a word. I say Celts because I'm a Boston sports fan, but that's just me. Yeah, so Celts here is the play you got to block. And that's why Poxy might not be the best choice. Although if you're just going to lose anyway and you want to play for spread, it's probably still not the best choice. Yeah, I think maybe you need to block here, but it's hard to do. Looks like Evan Borowski is logged off. I hope he's going to come back soon. Other 9 players are all still on ISC, ready to go. Down to 25 seconds now for Patrick to find a play here. So we've got a result in from Dean Saldana, another win for the Canadians. He beats Bedard Amuke. Update that in a moment, but first let's just watch the conclusion of this one. Poxy does come down, and then belts right away, and Jesse will indeed win this one. Okay, so that should do it for all the matches in Game 2. We hop back over to the matchup coverage here. We've got Jesse with the win in round 2, Game 3 for the Canadians. We had Dean with the win in round 2, Game 4. I was unable to check on Jeremy and Josh, but I will take a quick look at that now and find the result. And that's going to be one win for the Kenyans, as Josh Manyasa does get the win over Jeremy Hildebrand. Looks like a final of 453 to 447, very close. A 6-point win for Josh, and that is the only win in round 2 for the Kenyans. So a rough go of it so far for Team Kenya, but we saw a similar position last week where the Canadians were the ones behind by this type of margin, and they did indeed come back and win the match. So again, anything can happen, but definitely a very strong start to this match for Team Canada. As I update the score now, they are ahead by a margin of 8-2. And if we just hop over to the matchup coverage, we're going to have some exciting action come up in Game 3. Evan versus David. It's the top seed. Evan is the top seed for the Canadians. Jeremy versus Chris. Jesse versus Josh. Dean versus Patrick. And Matthew versus Bernard. Canada with a very strong lead so far, but a lot can still change. Looks like Evan has logged back onto ISC. I believe there's nothing wrong with him or with his internet connection. He is still with us, and so far none of the games have begun yet in game number 3. So I will just do a little bit of recap of what we've seen so far today in the Virtual World Cup. If you're just joining us, this is the rundown of the matches so far in week 2. We started with Pakistan and Australia super early this morning. I slept through this one because it was like 3 a.m. in my time zone, but it was Pakistan with the 16-9 victory over Australia. They are the top seed. Australia, that is, the top seed in their group, and Pakistan with the upset win. They've now beaten both of the top 2 seeds in their group, Pakistan and Nigeria, Australia and Nigeria. So Pakistan's in a very strong position right now. Malaysia in Group A, getting their first win in that group, with a 14-11 victory over Thailand, and then Singapore all over Ghana, 21-4. So it has been a rough day for the whole African continent so far, with Ghana losing big and Kenya having some trouble early against Canada in this one. So just a quick look at the pool play standings. It's India all alone in first place right now in Group A at 1-0, but if they lose tomorrow to the UK, we got a 4-way tie at 1-1. Group B, Pakistan leads at 2-0. In Group C, the winner of this match right now, Canada and Kenya, will be in first place, and right now it's Canada in that position, up 8-2. And in Group D, it's the US and Ireland who both won week 1, and they will have matches later this weekend with the US playing New Zealand and Ireland playing the Philippines. So we got some games getting started. If anybody in the chat wants to let me know who they want to watch, again, your options are here. You can watch Evan and David, Jeremy and Chris, and so on. Happy to take some input from anybody. Wayben says, if Canada does a Singapore against Kenya, I got to parse that statement. If Canada does a Singapore against Kenya, it will prove that Scrabble permanence is, yeah, okay. So basically you're saying that if there's a blowout win for Canada, it means that just nothing means anything anymore. I got you. Yeah, it's a very strange day for Jeremy's. So in the first match of the day that featured Jeremy's, Jeremy Koo was 5-0 against Ghana. And now as Canada faces Kenya, only Jeremy has lost for Canada. He's 0-2 and his teammates are 8-0. So maybe we'll watch Jeremy Hildebrand and see if he can get his first win of the day. Jeremy is already underway in his game number 3, and he's facing Chris Okiyama. We can take a look at Jeremy and Chris right now. Let's pull that up. The opening play is Evo, E-V-O-E for 14 points. Actually, wow, there was a series of exchanges here. This game started with Jeremy going first. It went change 6, change 1, change 1, and then Evo. I have no idea what rack Chris could have had with which he would exchange 1 and then play Evo the turn after. He either kept the V or he kept all 3 of EEO. Very strange choice either way, but I'm sure he had his reasons. The X-rated doesn't work, but that would be very nice if it were. But computer freezing for a second. She'll be right back. Really bad. You saw ISC is sometimes wrong about exchanges. I didn't know that. So sorry about the lag. My computer just sometimes freezes for like a 15 or 30-second spell and then comes back. I think we should be okay now, but let me know if there's still a lag issue moving forward. It's like ISC is just freaking out on me. Not sure why that's happening. Hope it'll come back and be okay in a moment. We're missing some riveting exchanging action, so don't want to have any more of that missed. Yeah, definitely some lag on my end. I apologize for that. Trying to get everything running smoothly again. Ooh, we've been with the list of the long bingos played so far, or bonuses, I should say, in the tournament. Decolorized was Jeremy. Misgoverned, that's cool. I believe Antibiosis was a Karapov Kwanzak in last week's Thailand UK match, if I recall correctly. I believe I'm back online now. My connection was fine, but my computer just froze up for a minute. I see Randy in the chat saying stream with an internet connection. That is a very high tech method that I had not considered, but I appreciate the suggestion. Um, Again, I believe that I'm fully back now. I believe that the audio and the video should be working. If that's not true, let me know. If it is true, let me know. I'd like to know either way. So, looks like what we missed was a bunch of stuff. Jeremy getting down Taos for 75, burning the blank because 75 is a big number. And looks like now he has Jimpier on his rack, and I don't believe it plays. Maybe they'll add RAR someday, but I don't think that's an option at this time. Jimp is nice though, 35 points, keeping a strong lead with EIR. Is the audio cutting in and out? That shouldn't be the case, but getting slightly better now. Okay. I was thinking everything was fixed, but we still have some lag. I can try to do something about that. Anyway, Jeremy with the pretty strong lead here, 175 to 65. I am happy to take feedback from anybody in the chat if you want to skip along to a new game or stick with this one. But right now it's a 110-point lead for Jeremy, who is right now on pace to get his first win of the day. But a lot can still change. The video is laggy. Are you kidding me? That shouldn't be the case, but maybe it'll clear things up in a little bit. So a tough rack for Chris. It's very one-pointer heavy. He plays Daunt, keeping AEN. Ooh, and he's given Jeremy the T that he needs for Register. Jeremy can find Register, and that it's going to be looking pretty bleak for Chris. Halfway through the game, and he'll be down by about 200 some. Not quite 200 some. So register would be 59. Jeremy would be at 234. Yeah, it could be a pretty commanding lead for Jeremy. I think we can move along. If anybody fervently objects, let me know. But let's take a look at Jesse Matthews. Ooh, Jesse Matthews also with a very big lead in his game. 288 to 112 against Josh Manyasa on the strength of a triple Eutexias. Wow, 248-point play for Jesse. Unbelievable. I believe that's the highest scoring play of the tournament so far. Um, wow. Eutexias for 248. So I guess we can skip along, but props to Jesse for that play. Biggest bingo of the entire Virtual World Cup to date. We've seen, what, 290 games? 275? I don't know. A lot of games. And not a play that high scoring, that's for sure. Let's check on Evan Borowski, the top seeded Canadian. He is playing against David Njenga, and we got a close one. Let's watch this. David 98, Evan 93. Opening play of Flute for 24 from Evan, followed by Gruelers immediately through the U. First turn bingo for David for 65. Evan has continued to score well, 35 for Haja and 34 for Heaved. What can David do now? He's got the first blank. Doesn't look like a rack that he can bingo with right away, but there's definitely ways to score decently and put himself in position to bingo soon. I didn't know that somebody missed Dentinol. I don't think that happened in one of these games, did it, Jeremy? Anyway, BDIMTW blank. A little bit tricky. Maybe through the E he could play something. I mean, embed is a little weird, keeping the W. It's hard to play anything that gets rid of the W. I mean, you should play U, keeping BDIC blank. Yeah, it's not great. I feel like I'm missing something, though. WebMD, I love it. WebMD in which spot, though? I mean, this is WebM Doctor, WebMDR. This is WebMDH. So there's no perfect spot for WebMD, it looks like. So Web, okay, Web keeps IDMT blank. That's pretty good. Definitely a QI situation now for Evan. Or you can play QADI. Yeah, 28 points for QADI. And it looks like David did not quite hit his bingo. I see those 6 letters. The first thing I think of is good time, but of course GE is only a brand of electronics and not a word. Let's see here. Midgets. Oh, Midgets does play. AY takes an S. Okay. Did I mention the Rust? A little bit of Rust. So a vowel heavy rack for Evan now. He's suddenly down by a lot. 68 points to make up here. He was keeping a pretty strong, bingo rack. I believe he had, what was it? EIRT, but he drew all vowels. That's pretty tough. Now he's in a situation where he's got to continue to score so he doesn't fall too far behind. You can play something like Huia. Not that ERT is the best lead you can keep here, but 21's nice. GE is a word played by Hubert Wee. I would love to hear that story. Dumbwaiter is the shortest steal for. I'm clear on what it's the shortest steal for. I'm missing something. Oh, for WebMD. I see. So Huya is the play from Evan. He gets 21. X-Ray looks pretty strong. Ooh, or you could play Ray, setting up the X. I don't think that's a good idea, though. It takes too many other hooks. He does play X-Ray for 58. Can't argue with it. And it looks like David is going to just barely dodge the massive triple-triple, because, like, re-export goes off the board by one. We could have had two massive triple-triples in the same round, with Jesse Matthews getting Eutexias and then re-export, but I don't believe there's going to be one with the X in the fifth position in the word. In fact, I don't think there's going to be any bingo through the X that fits at all. Because a lot of bingos with X's in them have like the letters EX at the start. You can't really get the X toward the end very often. So what can Evan do here? Reporter looks pretty strong, tripling the P for maximum points. 80 points for Reporter. You're opening the board a lot, but maybe when you're down by 105 points, that's the correct thing to do. Just gotta hope your opponent is drawn poorly and you can come back. Um, Not ideal to be, that open. It's pretty crazy aggressive, but perhaps warranted at this stage. Disembowelments. Yeah, if you've had some disembowelments, you should definitely use WebMD, that's for sure. Operetta. Yeah, there you go. QBR fan in the chat saying operetta. That's a nice way to get a big go down and not open anything crazy. After operetta, there's a chance that you hit the play through the X and your opponent doesn't. Your opponent's drawn poorly. You might get that spot, and that might put you back in the game. And when you're down by 105, you need some volatility. You need more than one thing to go right. You need the bingo and something else crazy to happen. So, keeping some possibilities like that X play up top might not be the worst thing in the world for you. Hey, the bot works. We can anagram EPORTX blank and find the four words. That's good. So operetta does come down, and indeed, David has drawn a tough rack. This is going to get interesting. David ahead by only 25, and he's drawn pretty bad stuff. Not seeing anything great to do with that X. Not seeing anything great to do with anything, really. What do we think in the chat? I don't know what can be done. So, Jeremy, you think that Reporter was a better play than Operetta? Too conservative, huh? I mean, you're within 25. It's not like you're desperately behind at this point in the game. I mean, I guess, it's pretty often what happens is that you play Operetta, your opponent just hits the X for 45, and then you're down by a bingo again. So maybe a more aggressive play is warranted for that reason. I don't know. But as it turns out, Operetta is played, and it's a pretty lousy rack for David to come back with. There's now a possibility that, David plays through this rack for a low score, and Evan has some sort of monster play, whether it's an X play or a bingo, or God forbid both. You could have a bingo through the X for all we know. Uh, this is tough. What to do? What to do? So Agria blocks up that part of the board a little bit, and turns out Evan did not draw very well. He's down by 41. And yeah, I don't know how you play through these letters. Do it all. Let's see here. I mean, do you really want to play Fuse, keeping CNNN? Probably not. The Z is a nice tile. I mean, the Z goes here, the Z goes here, the Z goes here. It's just a shame you got nothing good to go. Oh, cuz, okay. Cuz is 53. It does keep a lead of FNNN, so that's going to be interesting next turn. Evan is now ahead by 12, but David is starting to draw a little bit better, and Evan is starting to draw a little bit worse, so we'll have to see. So, woman here would be 41. That would put David back in the lead by a pretty decent margin. You just got to hope to draw well next turn and keep in a decent spot to stay ahead. Definitely will draw a bingo after keeping FNNN, yeah. That's actually closer than you'd expect him to come to a bingo. You know, he's one tile off from something like, I don't know, ninefold or non-fuel. He's close to stuff. Non-fans, there you go. Non-flans, like other desserts that are not flan. For the record, that's not a word. If there's X-ray, maybe also X-man. There you go. The dictionary is quite arbitrary, as we all know. It's like there's no reason that Jedi should be good and X-Man shouldn't, but it's just because they said so. Oh yeah, Wamefu was playable on that turn through the F. It would have been a decent play, but women or woman scores very well, 41 points. So for Evan Borowski now, you're behind by 29. You definitely have a chance to bingo at some point in this game. I mean, there's the open spot you created underneath Za. Got to watch for. Like to just keep the rack balanced and keep within striking distance on the scoreboard and give yourself a chance. Just checking Agria, it does take an S, so if you can draw the S, you have this spot as well. You're going to have opportunities here. So, you know, with three S's still unseeing, say this is anybody's game. I come down to who draws those S's and who draws balanced stuff to go with them. How low probability is unfunny? Yeah, very is the answer to that question. Fling, keeping NNO. Going to be interesting for Evan. He's within, what is it, 12 points though? It'll be close. ABIIKTU, the rack for David. We got a little bit of a problem here. It looks like Dean is playing the wrong opponent. I'm going to try to resolve that issue. Um, you guys can keep watching this game. I will be right back in just a moment. I'm going to check into that. Sorry about that. I'm back now, trying to figure out what's going on with our round three matchup between Dean Saldana and Patrick Latunia. It looks like they're supposed to be playing, and they currently aren't, so I'm just not sure what's going on there. But in any event, we got a game here between David and Evan that is close, and we'll keep an eye on this one. It looks like David's now ahead by 37. Evan is on turn. He's got another one of those awkward racks. It's like Evan played Envoy next to QI, which kind of blocks things up for himself a little bit. And now Inia for 18 from David makes things even more blocked. So what is there to do here with DLNOOOT? You got 4 in the bag. You probably don't want to empty it. Yeah, so we think there's a situation where Dean got confused and played the wrong opponent who's actually not from Kenya at all. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we're going to try and figure that out. Apologies to Dean. It looks like you're going to be stuck playing 6 games today instead of 5. But anyway, it's like Jeremy and Weibin in the chat suggesting plays here for Evan. Oh, so rows C and D were dangerous, and that's why Inia came down. That makes sense. Column 15 is, yeah, less of a concern. So now David has actually drawn a bingo rack, but it doesn't appear to play anywhere. Cretans, Cistern, etc. Yeah, tough spot. But he doesn't need to bingo, he just needs to find like a reasonable out in 2. Looks like Evan will have a rack of Dolos, Dolosse, but no spot for that either. So what's the out in 2 here for David? How does he find an elegant way to go out in 2 moves and score well? Oh, okay. So Jennifer's in the chat explaining what happened. Dean was actually playing against the Kenyan alternate because Patrick was unavailable for his match. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And in that case, I'd like to find out who won between Dean and said alternate. And let's take a quick look at Dean's history. And it looks like he lost. So that's going to be another win for Kenya. Get them back in the match a little bit. I will update the scoreboard in a moment. But first, let's take a look at this this endgame here with David. Looking for a way to go out in two. Oh yeah, Foodless almost plays, doesn't it? Just play. That's my my new word, rustiness. I wasn't going to see okay. I'm going to stick with directing. Playing is not treating well these days. Looks like there's some more results coming in from round 3 as well, with Jesse Matthews winning again, and he's now 3-0 today. He beat Josh Manyasa, and Matthew Tunnicliffe has also finished his game, and he's also 3-0 today with a win over Bernardo Muquez. So Canada doing very, very well today, and they are, really putting Kenya to the test because they're going to need to put on a big comeback to make this thing interesting. In this game, though, it looks like advantage David. It's going to be tough for David to lose this one if he can just make a reasonable out and two kind of sequence. Looks like Jeremy Hildebrand also won for Canada. That's his first win of the day. He defeated Chris Okiyama. We will update all of that when we can. David now with 10 seconds on his clock. He plays Estrin. Nice high-scoring play, 30 points. Gets the challenge, but that's probably not going to do much for him as Evan now behind by 53. Can't fit Dolos or Foodless anywhere on this board. It looks like David will pull away with the victory. Just play out the string here and see what Evan does for his final turn, but looks like a matter of time. Last tile on the rack for David is a C. You can see that it goes here for K's and here for Cups. There's no sticking that could happen. Toss is a nice play, and immediately the C for Cop comes down. That ought to do it, with David getting the win for Team Kenya. A much needed win right now because the Kenyans are in rough shape. Take a look at our matchup coverage. Round 3, game 1, as we just saw that one, was a victory for David. Between Jeremy and Chris, I believe the winner was Jeremy for Team Canada. Between Jesse and Josh, the winner was Jesse for Canada. Between Dean and the alternate for Patrick, as Patrick missed round 3. Another win for Dean, and then Matthew also getting the win for Team Canada. So another 4-1 round for the Canadians. 3 times in a row they've gone 4-1, and that'll push the Kenyans to the brink of elimination. This match was 8-2, and it is now 12-3. You know what that means. Canada has to win 10 in a row to save this match. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I am going to say it's very, very difficult to do. Canada 12, Kenya 3, a strong lead for the Canadians. We just take another look at our matchup coverage. Our games in round 4 are going to be Evan versus Bernard, Jeremy versus David, Jesse versus Chris, Dean versus Josh, and Matthew versus Patrick. If Canada wins just one of those 5, and they've got the win sewn up in this match. If they do, it'll put them at 2-0, all alone in first place in Group C of the Virtual World Cup. So, big moment here for Canada, a chance to seal the win and put themselves in a commanding position in this tournament, at least in their group, that is. We will check in on who's playing in round 4, and it looks like Jesse Matthews and Chris Okiyama are the first ones to get started, so we will take a look at them. Chris with ACC LMVY. He's going. Actually, wait a minute. No, it looks like Chris exchanged, and it'll be Jesse going second with ACC LMVY. According to the moves list, it was exchange 7 to open from Chris. So random rack for him on turn 2. KV is the play from Jesse. Looks reasonable, except for the horrible verticality of it. Again, that is opinion of myself only, not my employer. So I see Benji in the chat clarifying Canada needs to win 1 game, and Kenya needs to win all 10. That is the scenario right now. We've been saying, thankfully Singapore did Singapore, otherwise it would be doing it Canada. I am parsing that okay, I think. Anyway, back to the game. I know, Jeremy. I got to show you the board. There's your gosh darn board. Score right now: Canada 12, Kenya 3. Commanding position for the Canadians in this match. Jeez, I'm getting some anger in the chat. Show the board or riot. Just to be clear, I was showing the board for a while, but there was the lag, so you didn't know. Just in my defense, that's not a very good defense. Basically, I need to get a new computer and learn how to look at the chat. I'm guilty on both counts. The sad thing is the computer's pretty new. I bought it at Costco like a year ago. Maybe I won't buy the next one at Costco. Don't worry, Jeremy. I am not taking it too seriously at all. And I would riot if I didn't get to watch this thrilling opening action between Jesse and Chris here. I mean, look at this rack, AFGGNTZ. So many fun possibilities. I want to see that too. 56-19, Jesse with the early lead. Of course, if Jesse wins this game, then Canada is assured of winning the match. There's been some fierce competition for the title of most dominant winners of a single match in this tournament. The U.S., I believe, won 18-7 in week 1 against the Philippines. And then today, Singapore just demolishing Ghana by, what was that score? 21-4. So lots of big wins, and we'll see if Canada can get into that territory. But for now, they're just trying to make sure they can win the match. That is not assured yet. They lead 12-3. They need one more win. Gazang, yeah, that would have been a nice play. So for Jesse, it's DIILNST. What are we thinking here? Not seeing a bingo. Maybe just something like DIT. That keeps a little bit of an awkward ILNS. Is NIT better? 2 fewer points keep LIDS? I don't know. DIILNST. Yeah, so he does choose DIT for 20. Keeping ILNS. I don't mind it, not too bad. The L and the N are a little bit awkward together, but it's salvageable. So Tav for 22 comes down from Chris, and now it's BIKLNOS for Jesse Matthews, and he's got to deal with the fact that the board is starting to close down a little bit. Not a lot of spots to even score respectably, really. Not sure what to do with this rack. Maybe like Dob, D-O-B in the bottom left corner. I apologize if anybody can hear the noise outside my window. There is a garbage truck that, from the sound of it, is like picking up a dumpster, like repeatedly dropping it. It's really horrible noise, and I'm hoping that the headset can like only pick up my voice and not what's going on outside my window. But in any event, what's there to do here for Jesse with BIKLNOS? Plays block, which ironically is not that blocky because now there's a bingo lane here, and he does have the S, so he can maybe do something in line 10 next turn if he gets lucky. But for Chris, there's a Z on his rack now, and he can make something happen with that. Zineb, you don't really want to play off your N when you got the I and the G with it. Probably a better play than Zineb that I'm not seeing. Azine is strong, 49 points. Keep the IG, have to draw another N later. And a bunch of one-pointers for Jesse. Don't think there's going to be a bingo. Think it's reasonable maybe to play off EE, and he does play off EE. I might have considered DEE here in the bottom corner. You're giving up 3 points, but you're opening. Yeah, you're not opening anything that great. Maybe EE is fine. You're also blocking your own bingos a little bit, but as long as you draw something that hooks onto blocks over here on the left, on the right, sorry, you'll be fine. QPR fan in the chat scaring me because I could have fallen for that. Teenies or eenies, those could be words for all I know. I had to whip out my phone and look them up. They are not good. Okay. ETZN with an E. Oh, I like that one. Okay. Yeah, teenies does seem like the kind of word they would have added, but yeah, I don't think they did. So dig comes down. And now tennies, I believe, actually is a word. Tennies, intense, and tenisi, and I would assume that one of those is going to come down now. Intense is the play from Jesse, who now leads by 50 points, 185 to 135, and it's back to Chris. TZN sounds French. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So it looks like Germier is on the rack for Chris with no spot for that. I don't believe there's going to be any kind of 8-letter word through the letters in intense. What can you do here? I guess you can play Germier as a non-bingo. That's probably the strongest option here, if I could type it. 40 points, keep your E. Seems pretty strong. Get that down, it'll be a fairly close game. Yeah, so now it's a 10-point game for Jesse rather than a 50-point game. 185, 175. Looks like one of those tantalizingly close racks for Jesse. Not quite a bingo. What do we think of rodeos? I feel like there's an alternate spelling of rodeos. I feel like it's come up before in some Scrabble game of some kind, but I don't know. Sorry, I'm gonna alphabetize rack or riot myself. Can't stand the racks that are not alphabetized. So Deeoors. Yeah, there are no eights with Germier. Becky in the chat. Yeah, that's interesting. It kind of looks like there'd be one or two, but nothing. So what does Jesse actually want to do here? You can't do anything overlapping this because you don't have anything that goes over the G. I don't see any word ending in M. I don't see like a six starting with E. There's no way to like make a nice scoring word really. Um, you can just fish by playing toe. Takes the D and the S, so you're setting himself up in a couple of ways, but it's only 8 points. The leave isn't like super fantastic. Oh, so rodeo and rodeo don't mean the same thing? I always assumed they did. So rodeo without the A is for riding horses, and with the A it's for driving trucks. But they're both like competitions of riding something. Okay. Oh, I get it, because road, like trucks go on road. Oh, it's clever. QPR fan in the chat says that ooze makes sense. Yeah, that's one way to fish. Keeping DERS. Scores more than toe. An extra 7 points out of it. Yeah, that's not bad. Is there a way to like play off more of these tiles and overlap some things and score? Yeah, I don't really see that, do I? Like if Utid were a word, which it isn't, that would be cool. Looking for that kind of a play, like a way to overlap some more stuff and score. Don't think it exists though. So Jesse goes with do for 15, keeping EERS. It's interesting because it does block a little bit. It takes away bingos through the N in intense. So you've got a small lead. You can kind of keep the board closed and keep your rack strong for when it opens back up again. That's pretty interesting. Chris only behind by 25, though. It's not like he's in that dire a position. Pretty average rack here. Not going to bingo, but not going to be bereft of scoring options either. So AAD EPSV evades for 33. So that's going to just blow the board wide open. 8-point lead for Chris. And Jesse now with an awkward rack, 2 E's and 2 U's. Did not draw very well after DOO. He's behind by 8. Yeah, I think I agree in the chat there that keeping the D would have been nice. Yeah, I think I would have liked ooze better than do just to keep the extra very strong consonant in your leave. Yeah, just OO is also better than DOO. Yeah, I would agree with that too. In any event, what does Jesse do now with these U's? Oh, he plays the bingo. That's what he does. Under use. Yeah, that would be the play. Yeah, so that'll be 72 if he finds it, and that would put him ahead. And he does find it. So Jesse with the big bingo. That's going to put him in the lead. Now an awkward rack for Chris. He's drawn the Q and some other consonants with it. A, B, P, Q, R, T, Y. What's he going to do now? Sure, QPR fans rooting for QPR, but not a word, unfortunately. Yeah, who is Mr. Fish, Wibin? I don't know that either. Looks like again Patrick Latunia is not playing his match. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with that. He's supposed to be playing B1 versus A5. He's supposed to be playing Matthew. It's like Matthew is playing the alternate instead. Okay. I guess Patrick is not playing in round 4 either. So Chris plays Pantry for 31. It's going to put him within striking distance a little bit, given that Jesse's rack is pretty awkward. Oh, Rybats, that would have been nice. You look sack bot. Sorry if I go dark on you guys for a second. I'm just trying to identify who the alternate is for Kenya. If anybody in the chat knows, they can let me know. But in any event, it looks like Patrick Latunia, who's the top seed for Kenya, is sitting out both games 3 and 4 of this match, and that's tough because, of course, Kenya needs to win every single game to win this match. To be without their top seed is not great for them. Looks like Jesse is going to play off a bunch of those eyes on his rack. He plays Idolize, not a great score, only 19, but he's now ahead by almost a bingo. It's a 52-point lead, and still that awkward Q to deal with. Looks like Chris is going to quickly play QIN. That looks pretty reasonable. And a balanced rack for Jesse. Can't complain. Looks pretty strong. You could do something like Wishes. That would score well. 32, keeping IL. There's probably a better option than that, though. He ends up choosing Wheel, also 36, keeping his S. And 3 O's now for Chris. The awkward racks continue for him. That's tough. Looks like the alternate was Martins Mutahi, who's playing for Kenya. Another strong player, about a 1600 West rated player. So Kenya's still got a competitive team, even with Patrick missing in action at the moment. So it's going to be Martins Mutahi playing against Matthew Tunnicliffe in round 4 here. Again, if you're just joining us, Canada is dominating this match so far against Kenya, 12-3. All they need to do is win one more game, and they have guaranteed the match. That's right, Wayban. Kenya's alternate has Alchemist Cup experience. I believe that that's not the only team who's got an alternate who played the Alchemist Cup in 2018. I can name at least one other team that is in that situation. Actually, I can name 2 because Edward also played last week for Australia this May. And of course, for the Singaporeans, Ricky is the number 6 seed, so he will be the alternate if anybody can't make it to one of their games. So Jesse's ahead by 35 points. He's got the J. He can score a little bit and block a little bit with the J, and maybe leave a tile in the bag. I mean, something like just is probably fine, right? Although you do have to worry about the unseen blanks, and underuse takes an S. This is tough. I don't hate check you. No, I kind of hate chat you. I don't know. This is a tough spot. Jesuitish. There you go. Yeah, I mean, you can play just, and then you got to worry about bingos hooking under uses. Um, I don't know. It might still be best, though. Just does take an S. You do have the S hook for justs, and if this doesn't come down to bingo and you just need to outscore, then that justs hook is going to be very useful for you. The other just at 4A. Huh. Yeah, I mean, you're not likely to get bingoed on. Yeah, I mean, the only question is whether you want to put more emphasis on blocking bingos through, the E and the S and under use. With the two blanks unseen, yeah, you're gonna be in trouble pretty often. What do we think in the chat? Is it this just that he should do? Is it something even more defensive, like I don't know, jute? That doesn't seem right. There's also bingos from the G, possibly. It's a pretty awkward pool, except for the two blanks. Like he could have a blank and still not bingo for sure. He's got both blanks, and we're talking, but just one of them, it's gonna be tricky. So he does go with a nice defensive option. He plays UH. And uh-oh, here we go. Chris does have both blanks, and we are heading for a very close endgame, I think. Also, Chris has over 6 minutes on his clock, and Jesse has 30 seconds. So any bingo from the G will be just fine. Wow, I don't think there is one from the G. Would you look at that? Actually, a lot more difficult to bingo than you might think. um, definitely has Centaur. That would score 63 and put him just barely ahead going into the end game with two titles on his rack. This is going to be interesting. Oh, you know what he has? Yeah, the S lane in column 15, he has Smorzato. Smorzato would be a sick find. That would be 70. It wouldn't give back the easy triples. That looks like a fantastic play if he can spot it. Lucky for Chris, he's got 5 minutes on his clock to only 30 seconds for Jesse, so he's got time to find hard bingos like that. I would love to see Smorzato come down. It's the best bingo I've seen so far. But let's keep looking, and, what do you guys in the chat think? Play one tile. Okay. You play one tile. You play off the O. He does play one tile. So Chris plays on for two. And now Jesse has 20 seconds to ask himself, what's going on here? What do I do? This is difficult. He quickly blocks with fist, and now Chris has both blanks and can bingo out, sticking Jesse with the J. Wow. It looks like Chris is going to win this game. I haven't actually seen what the bingo is, but there's got to be one, right? Starting with a G, AORTU blank blank. Who's got it? There is one. Okay. There is one, and Chris has 4 minutes to find it. Yeah, I just find the word sforzato so painful that I just like Eternal Sunshine erased it from my memory. I had a painful game at Alchemist Cup where I was on table one being streamed, and yeah, bad things happen to me involving sforzato. I can't even say the word anymore. Oh, Stratus from the S. That is Stratus or Strupan. I believe those are the only two. From the G, the big O is Grayouts. That's the other option for Chris here. So he's got a few plays here that win the game. All he's got to do is find one. And he does find Stratus, and that's going to put him at 367, plus a whole bunch of points off Jesse's racking. He's going to win by 15, 393 to 378. So Chris Okiyama with a dramatic come from behind win over Jesse Matthews, just a really clutch play of on for two that ends up winning him the game. That's really impressive. So if we hop over to the matchup coverage, it looks like for now anyway, the Kenyans are still alive. It's going to be tough, but they had one must-win game that they got here, and that's going to put them at 12-4 instead of 12-3. So a lot of Scrabble still to be played. We'll see what happens. Let's hop back over to the scoreboard here and updated. It's 12-4 now in Kenya's favor. We'll take a look at the other games in just a moment and see what's going on. Looks like Matthew Tunnicliffe and Martins Matahi are still playing their game, and it looks like Matthew has a lead. Matthew 378, Martin's 324, and oof, a monster Q play from Matthew. 48 points for Knotts, and that should be enough. So it looks like Canada is going to win this match. It seemed pretty likely to happen sooner or later, and now it is happening now. And so now the question, as Wayman notes in the chat, is can Canada break? Well, actually, they can't break Singapore's record of winning 21-4, but they can tie it if they win all 9. So yeah, if you're just joining us for today's action in the Virtual World Cup, earlier today, Singapore with a blowout win over Ghana, 21-4, a new Virtual World Cup record with 21 wins in the match. Canada can win out to tie that record. And oh yeah, we're just getting word that Evan has also won his game for Canada. So that means that Canada is already going to be a couple of games into the winning range here. Dean Saldanha also the win in his game against Joshua Nyasa. So very strong performance again in round 4 for the Canadians, and they're going to be pretty handily ahead. But they're going to play it out, though. Spread does matter in these standings. Canada's going to be 2-0, but there could be a situation next week where what if the standings are 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, and the bottom seed of the 2-1s, based on spread, falls out of the playoffs? That could happen. So even with a win here today, Canada is 2-0, but they're not guaranteed a playoff spot. We can talk about all the scenarios and stuff later, but for the most part, pretty much every single team's going to have something to play for next week. Even if you're 2-0, you might not make the playoffs. Even if you're 0-2, you might not miss them. A lot of things can flip-flop in the final week. It's one of the beautiful things about this format is that things can change very quickly with the right upset wins and losses. Oh my God, Will in the chat with the worst pun of all time, saying that Evan is Clinchy. Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you for that. So it looks like Matthew is going to wrap this one up with a win over Martins. It's a matter of time, and we can take a look at the other games here. Looks like a close one between David and Jeremy, with Jeremy up by 12. $399, $387. What do you do here? Is interesting. So beard comes down. Appropriate word for Jeremy if you know him. He is quite bearded, especially during these quarantine times. No reason to shave when you're Jeremy, working from home animating cartoons. You can get all shaggy. Worst of all time means in a certain way it was the best of all time. No, it was the worst of all time. I don't think you're understanding me here. It was the absolute worst. Anyway, Canada is 12-4 so far, and I'm going to update the scoreboard in a minute with a couple more wins for them. They are doing very well in this match, and very well, in particular, in this round 4. I will update in a moment with win for Evan over Bernard. I believe a win for Dean as well. Josh. And Jeremy is about to wrap up this one with a win over David. Final score of 433 to 406 in this one. So the final match we're going to wrap up here in round 4 is between the two alternates who were not on the original rosters for their teams. The Lambs, Matthew Tunnicliffe for Canada, and Sultan Said, Martins Mutahi for Kenya. It looks like Matthew is just going to wrap this one up. So we will hop over to the mashup coverage and just update all of this. In round 4, game 1, we had a victory for Evan over Bernard. In game 2, we had a victory for Jeremy over David. And in game 4, it was Dean over Josh. And we are just wrapping up a game now between Matthew and the alternate for Patrick, Martins Mutahi, with Matthew Tunnicliffe winning that one. So four rounds in a row now that Canada has won 4-1. And so it is a convincing lead for the Canadians right now. So we update the scoreboard before your very eyes. It is now 16-4 in favor of the Canadians. So a really convincing win for the Canadians in this one. And now, really, the most dramatic question left is: can Canada win all 5 in the final round and tie Singapore's record? So that'll be interesting. 16-4, Canada leads, and for Kenya, spread matters very, very much because they actually won their first match of this tournament against Singapore, so they have a win. They're going to be 1-1 going into the final week of pool play. So the spread's going to be very, very important because if they're 2-1 or 1-2, they're going to be on the fringe of the playoffs. So every game counts. Remember, after match wins, the next tiebreaker is game wins, and so every game matters quite a bit to these Kenyans at this point. So right now, the score is Canada 16, but Kenya 4, but a lot to play for still. Make it 5. What am I making 5? I don't understand. So it looks like round 5 is getting underway. And take a look at Jesse again as he plays David. Looks like Evan is currently not logged on. I usually try to broadcast the 1 versus 1 in these final rounds because the way the pairings work, it's the last round is the ones play the ones, the twos play the twos, and so on. And usually the 1 versus 1 is the featured match, and that would be Evan Borowski versus Patrick Petunia. Fortunately, both Evan and Patrick have had some internet connectivity issues today, so I'm not sure if either one of them is going to be showing up anytime soon. I will go ahead and stick with the three seeds for now. Jesse against David. We've seen some entertaining games from Jesse and David already today, so let's watch one more. Yeah, I'm not sure what the status is of Kenya's alternate situation, whether it's going to be Patrick subbing back in or if it's still going to be Martin's. Looks like both Patrick and Martins are logged on. Don't know which one of them is playing their game. We'll find out. I don't know if Evan is going to be coming back soon, but for now, let's watch Jesse Matthews in action as the Canadians try to tie the Singaporeans' record of 21 wins in a match. Now they're sitting on 16. They got to win all five. Looks like two players have now signed off. Evan and Josh are both not logged on. Not sure what the deal is with that. We will try to find them and get them back. But for now, watching David and Jesse, 60 to 30, early lead for David. And it's Jesse now. Sorry, it's David now on turn. An H and a bunch of E's. Probably look to play off. HAE looks pretty reasonable. So now, not a lot of ways to use the W to your advantage if you're Jesse. I'm sure Jesse would have played WOE in the same spot had it not been blocked by HAE. What's your backup plan, though, Jesse? That's the question now. Huh. Not easy. Well, I guess you can play OWE underneath Fiat. Yeah, that's the play. There you go. And immediately that's going to give David the X spot he's looking for. Easy 50-point X keeping EINRS. So David's going to have a nice play here, putting him comfortably ahead with a strong leave as well. Just getting word from Evan that he is coming back, I believe. We should be in good shape for all of the matches to take place here in Game 5. Still unclear which one of Patrick or Martins will be playing as the 5C against Matthew. All sorts of alternate shenanigans going on here. If you're just joining us, it's been a fun day of Scrabble action here at the Virtual World Cup. We already saw upset win for Pakistan over Australia. Nice victory for the Malaysians over Thailand, and then Singapore with a dominant performance, 21-4 over Ghana. Now the question is whether Canada can tie the Singaporeans' record of 21 game wins in a match. 16-4 now, 5 games to go here. We're watching Jesse Matthews for the Canadians and David Njenga for the Kenyans. So David is taking a long time, even on a play that looks pretty obvious. I'm not sure why. Oh, I guess Rex. Okay, Rex Signs is a word. That's why. It seems like EX is a better play than Rex Signs. I think, yeah, 82 points versus 50. And EINRS is. Yeah, okay. EINRS is probably not worth 32 extra points. There's also the defense to consider. I mean, you're opening the triple rate for not much. Oh, no, you're not opening the triple. You're saying Rex Signs. No, you are opening the triple. Yeah. Did I mention the rust? A little bit of the rust. Yeah, I mean, you're opening a whole lot of stuff. I don't know. I'm tempted by EX. But definitely a turn that if you're David, you want to take some time on and get it right. Not that there's necessarily a right answer. There's definitely merits to both plays. I mean, if you're David here, you are going to be ahead no matter what you do. You're up by 34 now, soon to be 84 if you play EX, and maybe with an 84-point lead, you don't want to open the triple unnecessarily. Yeah, I mean, EX is not the most defensive play either. That's true. Yeah, I don't know. 32 points is a lot to give up. Maybe I should just stop overthinking it and just let the 32-point play. Oh, he plays Rex. That's very interesting. I don't think I would have chosen Rex. I don't know why you're going to ditch the R for no reason. I guess the one reason is you have fewer hooks for your opponent. It's harder to hook Rex than X. I really like keeping the R there, and I'm just not sure if that's worth it. A defensive play to be sure. I mean, you're up by a bingo and more, really. So I don't know. You guys can debate it in the chat. I think there's definitely merits to both plays. So I don't know. In any event, Jesse with the exchange, and now David has drawn another big rack. He's going to bingo almost certainly through that R. Enoresis or something like that. It looks like our one seeds have logged back on, and we will have Evan Borowski playing his match, or his game, I should say. Evan's going to be playing the alternate. He's going to be playing Martin's Mutahi, so it's not a true 1 versus 1. So for the Singaporeans in the chat, I think you're probably going to start to breathe a little easier knowing that your 21-4 record is going to stay intact. It looks like, barring a major comeback from Jesse here, Canada's win total is going to max out at 20. Yeah, Unsexier through the R is a valid bingo you could play. A lot of options. I think Unsexier is probably the stronger one defensively than Euresis. But yeah, definitely plenty of options. Just a reminder, there is a whole lot more Scala coming at you this weekend after this. We're going to have a brief break in the action after this match, and at 1 o'clock a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and I believe that's 6 p.m. on the west coast of the U.S. and 9 p.m. on the east coast of the U.S. We'll have the U.S. match they're playing against New Zealand. And I would tell you what time it is in New Zealand, but I'm bad at math, so sorry about that. Squireen with a blank Q. If there's one thing that's cooler than a blank X, it's a blank Q. Perhaps not the stronger play defensively because you're opening up the bottom half of the board a little bit, but you're ahead by 150. You can afford to live a little bit dangerously. So now Jesse has a bingo on his rack that plays Guanines. Yep, Guanines for 70. And David has the Q and the Z and all sorts of fun stuff. Definitely plenty of choices here for David. He could play Saz for 36 and hold on to the Q. You know, you could get rid of the Q with a play like Quat here. That's pretty dangerous. Maybe just Quat, hold on to the T, and not get back the hooks for Quat. There's options. So for David, lead of 208 to 127. He's up by 81. You want to minimize the chances that your opponent bingos twice. I mean, that's the easiest way back into the game for Jesse is to bingo twice, and so you want to limit the number of lanes available. So gap comes down, just killing the triple. Totally reasonable for David, not letting anything go wrong in line one. Makes a lot of sense. $226 to $127. David with a small lead here. Did I say small? Big lead. Sorry, 100-point lead. 226 to 127. Szapka. Yeah, that's a cool word indeed. So ADG LMP. Jesse with plenty of time on his clock. David spent a lot of time choosing those Rex and Squirine plays. Both controversial choices, especially in this chat. So Jesse continuing to play quickly, puts down Algum. And now the question for David is, what do you do with this Q and Z? I think just QAT along the left side next to Algum makes a lot of sense. Score a quick 38, move on with your life, get rid of that Q. Looks like we had a late start between Matthew Tunnicliffe and Josh Manyasa, but eventually they were able to find each other and get started. So all games in round 5 are underway. Some are farther along than others. David does play QAT. He's up by 89? Or no, that's not math. 109. And for Jesse, gotta start bingoing soon. Let's see what he can do. Yeah, not a great spot. Play FUD and hope that your Leave of Supra turns into something along line 14 here. That's not super likely to work, but show me an alternative. This is a bingo twice kind of position. Just one is not going to get you all the way back in the game, but two might do it. ADFPRSU. It's an awkward rack to be sure. It's the kind of board where there's not a lot of places to capitalize on it. FUD. Okay, so you're going to open the bottom part of the board. That's interesting. Scores 21. Keeps APRS. With the right draw, you're kind of sort of back in this thing. David is also getting, pretty low on time for still 33 tiles left. 4 minutes on his clock. Maybe he'll play something quickly like Cuz to just kind of kill this lane and balance the rack and score okay. Wouldn't mind that. I think if I were David in this position, I would probably play Cuz and play it quickly to conserve time, because if Jesse does come back, you're going to need... Ooh, so David chooses to block. He plays Nerve for 3. Wow. Giving up a lot of points there for the defensive choice. Some might call it too defensive, but hey, that's his decision, and he's got to do what he can to keep Jesse from bingoing here, and that's interesting. I don't know. As it turns out, Jesse hadn't really drawn anything good anyway. He's going to have to make another rack balancing play here, and probably won't score very much doing it. Yeah, I'm not sure what he's got. Cesar in the chat saying cousin Kenji. Yeah, maybe Kenji would have played Nur. Yeah, it's a very extreme example of getting defensive in this position. I'm not sure if it's really necessary, but maybe there are situations where it pays off for him. I don't know. I also didn't know that there was like a Cesar face emote. I don't know how to use those. I need to learn. So Jeremy likes Nur. Not a bad play. Okay, okay. I'd be curious to analyze that one later. I think that's very interesting. So for Jesse, Sap is the choice. Opening another spot to bingo, and looks like to his one tile fish, not really a fish, but his one tile play, David drew a V. Maybe Vum now to block up here? I don't know. So Clip is the play from David, another very defensive choice. He is ahead by a bingo and blocking that bingo. But the shame of it is he was ahead by two bingos not long ago, and now Jesse's getting a little bit closer to striking distance. Still 26 tiles in the bag, a lot of game to be played here. And now Oka for 5. Wow. Forcing the board open in a way. Now there's going to be a lane above the O in Oka. There's going to be a lane to the left of the A in Oka. Sort of. You got to hit with the S in the middle of the word. It's not easy to do. David now on turn, ahead by 78. Jam blocks bingos on the right side of Oka, but the left side is open, and Sierra is going to come down now. So after Jesse plays Sierran, we're going to have a little bit of a closer game. Yeah, this might get interesting. Still a bit of a lead for David. 303 to 258. Oh no, was Arrhenius playable? I didn't even see that either. You're saying he had Arrhenius when he played Oka? Oh boy, yeah, that's okay. Okay, that would have been better. David plays Verve, and now Jesse has drawn a blank. He's down by 90, and it's going to be hard to use that blank. Maybe you play something like Hid or Hot over here and hope to bingo next turn. The pool's getting pretty funky. 18 tiles unseen to Jesse. 13 of them are consonants, and they're weird consonants. B, B, K, W, Y, Z. It's weird stuff. Bingoing is going to be hard. Oh, so Wavin points out in the chat that Verve keeps the Zoe fish alive. That's a great point. David gets down Zoe above Sierra in here, making Ono. It's going to be pretty much game over, even if Jesse does bingo. But for Jesse, you just got to do the best you can here. I think that something like Hot, holding onto your I for the overlap of CH, just praying to draw the right bingo. I don't even know what that bingo would be. Yeah, it's going to be tough, but you have the blank, so you do have more flexibility than your opponent here. That's the one good thing for you. I said the pool's getting pretty funky. I don't know what you thought I said. It's funky. It's weird. It's gross. Yeah, Kate says no and hum can block the Z. Um, yeah, that's true. It's interesting. 28 points. Like, what could you draw if you don't open any more lanes? It's tough. I'm not seeing anything from the V with Dinot in it. Oh, devotion is a word. You could draw devotion. And in fact, if you do draw devotion, then it means your opponent's gonna have even fewer vowels on their rack. You got to play for those crazy edge cases. Yeah, so Jesse does choose Hod, and it looks like Waven's idea of Zoe is not going to pan out. David has not drawn any of the O's. Pretty bad rack now for David. This is going to get a little bit interesting. If Jesse draws something good. Yeah, Jeremy, I don't think that the slightly different word that you heard takes a Y. So, like, I don't know why I would use that word with the Y. Never mind. Let's just go on. Okay. Um, humid is possible. Oh, yeah, humid. Um, I mean, ideally, you're going for a bingo in that spot, but we'll see whether that's possible. It'll be tough. Clock getting pretty low now for David. He's under a minute. Um, he might want to hold on to the Z still and hope to get that Zoe play in later. If he doesn't want to play the Z, he could play, I don't know, Burl for 12 and just get rid of consonants. It's not great. So he chooses to block the spot on the right. That's interesting. Okay, so rib. And now quickly taking out the Z spot with KO is Jesse. That's very interesting. So now David still has an awkward rack. The lead is only 38, and he's got to worry about Jesse bingoing. Not that it's easy to do so, but maybe through the V. Yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. 20 seconds now for David. He's getting low on the clock. So he plays Zin. Now it's back to Jesse. One tile in the bag. It's going to be hard to make a setup here. He does make one, though, AY. And that might have worked. This is interesting. 65-point game. It'll be 70 or 55 if David goes over. It's a 55-point game. And there are going to be bingos. Jesse underneath AY for sure. Something like, I'm actually not seeing it right away because the E has to be in an awkward position. Maybe there isn't one. While I look at this. Is there a bingo with the E fourth or fifth? I don't think I see it. Jesse has 4 minutes to look. Now, the thing about E's is they're often going to be the second to last letter in a word, not as often in the middle. And this would be crushing for Jesse if he set up the spot perfectly and then couldn't find a way to bingo. But I'm not seeing it. Unless there's a bingo somewhere else on the board, something ending in I on the left with QI, but I don't think anything ends in I here. Boy, this would be crushing for Jesse if he worked so hard to come back in this game and just didn't have the bingo. Also, David has 4 seconds. That's a plot twist. You do forfeit the game if you go over a minute over on ISC. So David has to play extremely quickly with 4 seconds on his clock. It would be a shame if a really hard fought game like this ended in a time forfeit. For Jesse, I mean, he's just got to keep on looking, but I don't know if he's going to find anything. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's not. I think AY was a really creative play. Gave himself a great chance to win this game. Not a great chance, but he gave himself a chance to win this game. And it just, I don't think it's going to work out. I don't see what he's got. I don't think they have pre-moves on ISC, do they? That'd be interesting. Pre-moving a pass, that would be great. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, playing one tile at a time might be the best way to go. Although, geez, that is one, I don't know, devious way to win this game is one way to put it. Oh, let's make up phonies. Tribed them? Okay, okay. Boy, Jesse just keeps looking. This is just a heartbreaker for him. I mean, he had a real chance to win this one after being down by over 100. I did not know they added pre-moves. That's really cool. I should look into that. I've been playing chess on chess.com and they have pre-moves, but I think in chess it makes more sense than in Scrabble. There's not that many situations where pre-moving makes sense in Scrabble, right? So now Jesse goes over on his clock as well. So now he's down by 79, which is fine. I mean, you can theoretically, if the bingo existed, then 79 would be fine. You could still win by down from down that much. But it looks like he's just not going to have a bingo. Both players just getting extremely low on time now. Jesse getting his last 30 seconds before he forfeits. What an end to this match. Well, so instantly, David puts down the B for Saab. And now it's Jesse in serious time trouble with 10 seconds to go. But he can just play. Yeah, anything like, yeah, feint is fine. And so David Njenga holds on to win 412 to 383 in an absolutely bizarre ending. Jesse Matthews giving himself a chance to bingo at the end, but just doesn't hit the right rack to bingo with. Heartbreaking loss for Jesse. Crazy win for David. And it is official that Singapore's record for 21 wins in a match will stay, as Canada's going to fall just short of winning 21. We can check on Evan Borowski, who's still playing his game. Evan is playing against Martins, and it looks like Evan is leading that game. Looks like Bernard Muke also got a win against Jeremy Hildebrand, so a couple of wins for the Kenyans in this final round. And Chris Okiyama in his game lost to Dean Saldana, so maybe a close final round out this match. And it looks like Josh Manyasa and Matthew Tunnicliffe are still playing. So we will update all those scores in a little bit, but let's just watch the last little bit of this game between. Oh, I guess I stopped observing. That's my bad. Oh, the game's over. Okay, Evan won, 441, 379. So the final game will be between Tunnicliffe and Manyasa, and it looks like Tunnicliffe's got a little bit of a lead here. Excellent news from Jennifer in the chat that we have fixed our online results slips, and we're going to have a complete spreadsheet of all the game wins and game losses for all the players in this morning's games. So that's going to be great. We're going to have all of the updated standings and everybody's spreads and all of that for everybody to see. If you're just joining us, we are on round number 4 of the, or sorry, match number 4 of this week of the tournament. We've already seen 3 matches this morning. We had a Pakistan win over Australia. We had a Malaysia win over Thailand. We had a Singapore win over Ghana. Now it looks like Canada's going to wrap things up here against Kenya. Apparently, Josh Manyasa has lost his connection to ISC, so we are stuck on this Manyasa Tunnicliffe game here. So the match is not quite officially over, but we can, for now, just kind of hop over to the matchup coverage screen, take a look at all of the individual games. We had Evan against Patrick, and let me just double check that one. It appears that that was indeed a win for Evan over Patrick. That's another win for the Canadians. We had Jeremy against Bernard. Okay, and that was a win for Bernard. We had Jesse against David. That was the heartbreaker for Jesse that we just watched, where he could not get the bingo out at the end. So another win for Kenya in that one. We had Dean versus Chris, which was a win for Dean and the Canadians. And then we got Matthew versus Josh, still in progress. So we got a 2-2 tie so far for round 5. Means we can update the scores as they stand right now. It is no longer 16-4. It is instead 18-6. So a very strong match for the Canadians in any event. And we will, just to play out the string here, find out what happens in these final moves. It looks like Josh Manyasa, Kenya Hawk, is now back online. We can watch the end of this one, as it looks like Matthew is up by 100, looking to seal the deal here. Nice play of Ouija for 39. And that is a bingo. Totters and Shreddo for Josh. So actually, this might be hard for Matthew to prevent Josh from bingoing out, but he can just score enough points to outrun anyway. Looks like he's going to be all right. Hey, Jeremy Hildebrand, welcome to the chat. Feel free to share with us some thoughts on how the match went. Looks like a great win for Canada overall. For your games. I'm seeing someone say in the chat that Jeremy won his game. Looks like Jeremy did not win. He lost to Bernard Amuke in the last one. The other Canadians, though, Evan and Dean, they did win. Waven, thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate the TSK. It's really cool. If anyone wants to see some stats on this tournament, check out Waven's tournament stats kit. It is pretty fantastic. I'm sure Waven can share with you guys the link for that. Yeah, so Totters does play in line 14, and it plays in line 3, and Shreddo plays in line 2. So Josh is guaranteed to bingo out here, assuming he finds his bingos. And for Matthew, up by 62, you just got to score enough to make sure you don't get outrun by that bingo. I mean, I think something like just bank is probably plenty of points, and it's probably enough to win. Looking like some major connection issues for Josh, as he is again logged off. Um, we're gonna hope that he can come back. He is back. Okay. Jeez. And we're back. I'm glad to know I'm not the only one in the world who's having some internet connectivity issues. Times like this with so many people quarantined and just doing stuff on the internet while they're at home, there's a whole lot of bandwidth issues out there. Says our thanks. I'm happy for the compliments. The tournament's going really well so far. I think we're all of us running the show. Myself, Jennifer, Will, Benji, Jeremy. Like we're all really happy with how it's going. Um, it's been a lot of fun to broadcast these matches. So happy you're enjoying it. Um, got a whole lot more action still to come. We are about 5 hours away from the next match. The United States will be taking on New Zealand. That's going to be live on twitch.tv/Benji Scrabble, BNJY Scrabble. Really looking forward to Benji calling that one. I'm going to kick back and relax with a beer and watch. I'm going to not do any work tonight. It's going to be nice. It's been a lot of work putting this tournament together, but absolutely worth it. It's been a lot of fun seeing 16 countries from all over the world competing in this tournament. It's just really exciting. As for this match, Canada is up 18-6 and looking to make it 19-6 if Matthew Tunnicliffe can just hold off this late bingo that's coming up from Josh Manyasa, and he should be in good shape to win this match. Or win this game, rather. The match is already sealed. So Canada, in their first weekend of the tournament, faced Ghana. They were 2-7 after their first 9 games. They rallied all the way back and won 13-12. And now in their second week of the tournament, they have a much more convincing victory, 18-6, possibly 19-6. We'll see. So they're going to be 2-0 in matches and possibly 32-18 in games, which is a commanding lead over Group C. They're not guaranteed a playoff spot yet. There are scenarios where they lose next week to Singapore and Kenya beats Ghana. I think in that case we'd have. No, actually, maybe they are guaranteed a playoff spot. I have to do some math and figure it out. But in any event, Canada's in a very good position in this tournament. Canada and Pakistan are going to be the only 2 countries so far to be 2-0. But that could change tonight with the U.S. taking on New Zealand. Says there's going to be half-brainedly coding. Okay. I mean, that's really impressive if you can code with half your brain, because like most humans use 10% of their brains, so 50% is like super genius level. So Niqab is the play from Matthew, and for Josh, it's going to be some variant of Toddlers or Shreddo, I would assume. That'll wrap this thing up. We placed Tottery with a blank Y. That's classier. And Tottery is indeed good, and it looks like a 476-452 final as Matthew Tunnicliffe wraps up the win. That will make the final score of this match. Canada 19 and Kenya 6. So congrats to the Canadians on a very convincing victory. They are now 2-0. We will do everything we can to update the standings after this one's over, but it's going to be Canada 2-0, Singapore 1-1, Kenya 1-1 with a lower spread, and then Ghana at 0-2 in Group C. So just to recap everything in the tournament, we've got in Group A, India playing the UK tomorrow. If they win, they're all alone in first place at 2-0. If they lose, everyone's tied at 1-1. In Group B, we've got Pakistan 2-0 thanks to a victory over Australia this morning. And then Nigeria plays South Africa. The winner of that game will move into third place, most likely. In Group C, Canada's going to be all alone in first place at 2-0. Singapore 1-1 in second place. Kenya 1-1 behind Singapore on spread in third, and then Ghana at 0-2. And in Group D, the U.S. and Ireland had victories over New Zealand and the Philippines in week 1, and in week 2 we got U.S. New Zealand today, and then Ireland Philippines tomorrow. So a whole lot of action still to come. We will update these standings. We will update this weekend's scoreboard. These are all the games we have still coming up. Obviously, Canada with the win over Kenya, we'll update that. And then the coming up matches are going to be the U.S. and New Zealand. I'll just run through the time slots real quick. The U.S. faces New Zealand at 1 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time Sunday morning. Ireland versus the Philippines at 12 noon tomorrow GMT. The UK and India at 1 o'clock p.m. tomorrow GMT, and then at 5 p.m. tomorrow GMT, it's Nigeria facing South Africa. I'll be back at 5 p.m. tomorrow with that Nigeria-South Africa right here on twitch.tv/.